All Souls Community Church, today's election day. Who's Jesus voting for? Have you ever thought about that question before? Who is Jesus voting for? If you've ever wondered about whether or not Jesus was going to be conservative, or if he was alive today, if he'd vote Democrat or liberal, there's a great passage of scripture that actually answers that question for us. In Mark chapter 12, it says that the conservatives and the liberals, the Pharisees and the Herodians, they approached Jesus because it was time for him to kind of put his money where his mouth was. They didn't have an election, but Jesus was being called on to vote. Are you going to be conservative or are you going to be liberal? You see, Jesus was claiming to be the king, the Messiah, and they were going to try to trap him because neither group actually wanted to follow Jesus. They just wanted to expose him one way or another. And so they came to Jesus and they said, "Good teacher, should we pay taxes to Caesar or not?" Even back then in the first century, they were arguing about taxes, right? Big surprise. So here's the issue. Here's where they're trying to trap Jesus. If Jesus, the Messiah, who's supposed to come in and bring the nation of Israel back into its heyday, into its glory, if he were to say, yes, pay taxes to Caesar, then they would think he's a fraud. Why? Because he's sold out to the establishment. He would be a liberal in that sense. He's sold out and he's not really here to do anything but blow some smoke. Okay, if he says, no, don't pay taxes to Caesar, then he's claiming a certain kind of messiahship, a more conservative view of he's coming in to actually bring in a military kingdom, and therefore Caesar would come in and squash him. So if he said, yes, pay taxes, then he would be dismissed as a fake and a phony. If he said, no, don't pay taxes, then he'd be destroyed as someone trying to lead a coup against the most powerful man in the world at that point, the Roman emperor. Do you understand the difficult situation that they had put Jesus in? Jesus, are you conservative or are you liberal? Are you red or are you blue? As you think about your voting today and you're wondering, gee, what would Jesus do? Let me give you Jesus's answer. Because Jesus, instead of being trapped by them, traps them in a way that I believe he wants every one of us here, every one of us on the face of the planet, but specifically here in America today, to know. He says, bring me one of the coins. And he lifts it up. He says, whose image is this and whose inscription? And they say, it's Caesar's, of course. And Jesus responds, well, then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. In other words, give to Caesar the things that bear his image and his inscription, the coins. But give to God the things that bear his image and inscription, namely us. Us. So let me put it to you differently. Rather than playing the political game that they wanted him to play and saying, are you conservative? Are you liberal? Jesus says, I'm neither. I'm not going to come down to those political categories that you find your identity and your value in. Instead, what I'm coming to do, my vote today, is for you. It's for you. Even when you're trying to trap me, even when you're acting in opposition to me, even when you're acting like my enemy, which is what we talked about on Sunday in our study through Ezra, that enemies oppose, enemies attack, enemies come after. Yes, that's what they were doing to Jesus. And even in the face of that, Jesus lived by the very rule that he himself taught in the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I've come to tell you and show you, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you, who oppose you. Why? Because that's exactly what I've come to do. The Son of the Father, I've come to love you and to win you as my reward. This day, Jesus wants to know that his vote has been for you, not for the red, or for the blue, not conservative or liberal, for you and for me. And what his invitation is for us who know him and who know that love and that claim that he has put on our hearts and lives is to us then turn around and do the very same thing. And so if you're going to go today and pull a red lever, can I encourage you to start praying for those in your life who you know are pulling the blue. If you're going to pull a blue lever, pray for those you know are going to pull the red. Pray for those who are opposed to you. For friends, what's going to fix what's broken in our country, in our world, in our hearts, is not 4 more years or 4 new years. What's going to fix that is the power that God says he himself is. Love. Today, friends, our God votes for us. And he wants us to go and to share that vote, that love with one another. Will you? It starts with prayer, but then be ready. When you ask, he's going to answer. He's going to open up opportunities for you to serve those who have acted like your enemies. I'm already hearing stories from Sunday from some of you, and I want to hear more. Go ahead and post them below if you would so choose. But I'm hearing these stories. We've been praying for those who have acted like our enemies, and all of a sudden, God's opening these doors. It's what he does. He says, when you ask, you're going to receive. So will you this day pray for your enemies? And then watch as God opens the door and gives opportunity to do the very same thing that he has done all of our lives. Loved us, even when we were opposed to him. For that love, friends, changes the world. This is how God demonstrated his love for us. While we were still sinners, still enemies, Christ died for us. That's great news. That's the best news. That's the gospel. I pray that you're encouraged, even this election day. God be with you.